Cool. Hey everybody, John Bobrow here, creator of Blinks.
Oh, sure. Hey, it's Dan, games lead at Move38. Sorry, I thought not paying attention.
That's okay. Today for our live stream,
Cool.
hey everybody, John Bobrow here, creator of Blinks. Whoa. Nope. Hold on, let me.
Sure.
There we go. Sorry about that. Little bit of technical difficulties today. There we go. Cool. Today for our live stream, I've got Dan on with me, and I figured what we can do is we can walk through some of the ways we've thought about and tackled animation on Blinks. All of the games have different animation styles. Dan's given a ton of close care to making sure they feel, I don't know, I think you wrote like a nice blog post on this where it was, you know, that they have a theme.
Yeah, and it's certainly something that we've gotten better at over time. That was something that we may have done pretty well or sometimes by accident in the past, and now it's something that we focus on really really discreetly, which is nice. And that's what the post was about, especially with the new games, trying to make sure they all have their own visual identity.
And so there's both the like theming aspect of like thinking about what are the kinds of animations that fit this type of game or style of game. One of the things that I often use in the office is like, I'll be like, how do we make it more juicy? How do we make this game feel more just like, you know, I want Blinks to feel exciting. But the subject of our live stream today is going to be a little more technical in the sense that I thought it'd be nice to talk about 4 different styles of animation that you can see in the core and expansion set. And then Dan just brought this up, which I think is really nice, is you can see the animation styles we took from core and expansion, and then they got expanded upon and combined in unique ways in the community set. And I say we here generally, Move38 definitely has put a hand into each of the games in their final visual state. But also a lot of this comes directly from the community and the games that are being developed. So Astro, I think, is a perfect example of a game that from a game jam, there was just a really exciting moment of seeing the ore taken and absorbed by the spaceship. And it was like, cool. All the rest of the graphics around it, the celebration, you know, those we came up with later. But the ore transfer was like, oh, this is so good, and it's almost exactly as the prototype. Should I start with? So I figured for this I'd break out the games.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna start with the simplest animated game. Does anybody have a guess from anybody watching have a guess as to what game has the simplest animation? I feel like there would be 2 reasons.
Oh yeah, I have one that I know what you're thinking of, but yeah. So I was just thinking about that.
So I'm guessing that Dan, you're thinking Fracture, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Maybe that's not fair because the sparkle is actually pretty sophisticated.
We did put some love into that.
Yeah.
Also, kind of stole it from Zenflow.
Not kind of. It's the same code.
It's
just faster. Yeah.
So Jonas wrote Wham. His guess was Wham. Wham actually
There's got a lot going on. Yeah.
A great deal going on. I'm gonna load it up and I'm gonna turn on our overhead camera.
Yeah, so. Wham has some saturation changes. It has flashes. It has countdowns, and especially if you've ever won a game of Wham, it has an actually totally needlessly complex celebration state, which is really interesting.
It's I feel like that game in general has so much happening under the hood that
yeah. Well, I mean, it's got the game of life playing underneath it while you play Wham, which I think is exciting.
We haven't written that blog post, have we?
No, we've talked about it. You're gonna run out of time.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and load this game up. Oh, I kind of did run out of time. Let's do that transfer.
I think that ran out of batteries.
That's Dark Ball seems to have.
Yeah, I ran out of batteries.
Batteries. It seemed good. Interesting. Okay.
You gotta cancel all these. Yeah.
There we go. So I'm gonna hold this one down, and here's the great reveal. And maybe I would assume that anybody watching will recognize what game this is right when it loads up. Let's see, 5, 4. There's just a moment for.
I like the pattern.
Let's see. Oh, the pattern that it ended up going.
Yeah, that looks cool. Right. That looks weird on camera. It looks different on camera. Like there's a yellow to it. Yeah.
So the game that has, I would argue, the simplest animation is Barry.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'd say it's the simplest is that nothing about Barry in its general animation relies on each other. The blinks animate on their own.
And there's no transitions. They just pop to new colors.
Right. If I press it, it goes instantly to the
next frame red, next frame yellow, next frame blue. There is no flash of white down to color. There's no spin reveal. There's no, it just becomes it.
And I'm tempted to do this. Ishmael brought up, he thought it'd be fun if I showed the code that did the animation while we talk about it.
For some of these, it's going to be too vast to show reasonably on camera. Especially as we get towards the more complicated stuff. But for Barry, I guess probably the spin code's probably easy enough to find.
For Barry, I'll give it a go. So I'm just gonna pop into Barry here. I'm gonna share my screen. So here we go. This looks pretty good. And Ernie's getting picked up right now. We'll see how that goes.
I'm still not seeing your screen.
Let's see. Barry. Oh, I'm not actually seeing Barry in my options for shared windows.
Huh.
Let me try this. Are we seeing a shared window now?
I'm seeing one, yeah.
Okay.
And a bunch of resealable smell-proof bags.
We're seeing like my whole screen.
Yeah, it's everything. Just minimize everything. Is there a minimize everything button on Mac?
Well, I can do this.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So let's look at Barry.
Yeah.
So as I scroll down in Barry's not that long a code. It's pretty quick.
So the base color you can see at the top. Base color is in loop. It's just that. Display color. So that the under, like that, without that little spin, you just get this set color. And that's why it pops from frame to frame. Like if you change the color, it changes in loop, boom, new color. That's it.
The next thing on here is arguably the most complicated thing, which is in the game of Barry, we hint which pieces are locked. So there is a subtle pulsing. We didn't really want it to distract from gameplay, but if it's your first time playing and you're playing with somebody else, you can go, oh, that piece is locked. You can tell because it's pulsing. So that's that second part right here.
Right.
Show locked sides. And it's just using a simple sine wave to go up and down in its brightness.
The other thing is that this isn't really an animation thing, but if I could go back, I would either remove this animation or replace it with an animation that shows when you've scored a point. Because I think that the locked thing is in some ways easier to explain to new people than that's worth points. And it's the same concept. It's a little neighborhood sensory thing where it goes, actually, I'm worth a point. Bing, 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 you know.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
And yeah, that's maybe we'll release a version of Barry. I mean, I feel like if you have the developer kit, you can upgrade your Barry to reveal that.
Yeah, and that'd be an interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it another time. An interesting. Like I know right now that I can tell you that each individual blink knows if it's worth points. It doesn't need to know about the whole fields, but it requires a very specific check. So that's an interesting puzzle to unravel if anyone's looking to do that. Yeah, there's some geometric things you could sense that would get you there.
And so you can see from the code here, like there's nothing to do with neighbors. It's not using any communication. It's just saying on a timer, if I'm waiting, don't display the, don't change this rotating show next. And if I'm not waiting, if that timer expires, increment and light up the next one. And so that's really all that's happening here. And I think that's probably reason enough to go on to our next one.
Well, I will say that there is a game that you all know about, Dynamo, that has a little animation that happens very similarly. There's a swirl and a wait, and a swirl and a wait. It's done in a somewhat more sophisticated way. It has fades, so it doesn't just like, so that one is on, like that's it. In Dynamo, it comes to life gradually and then fades down. But it's the same idea. I'm just every X amount of seconds moving it to a new face and moving it to a new face and moving it to a new face. It's just that I'm adding these little tails to it to make it seem more natural. But it's the same idea. I'm just a little like swoop, swoop. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Jonas points out that Barry's not his favorite. He doesn't like the fact that he has to count the points himself. One of my favorite things, we should share it on the forum, is Vivi and Vanilla made a scorecard for Barry. And you can just print them out yourself, or whenever I'm playing Barry, I just draw 10 little circles and then check them off as I score. And it's, I don't know, I kind of like the artifact of like when Jamie and I go back to play Barry, it's like we have this record of who's won and how many.
There's also an argument to be made for making you could take Barry, let's say you owned like 9 blinks or something. If you added a piece of code to Barry where you long press and it turns into a scorekeeper, and it counts up from 0 to 10. You could do that as well, and you long press, turn into a scorekeeper, and put it down next to you, and then scored 2 points, 1, 2, scored 3 points, 1, 2, 3. There's certainly space in the code. If we're talking about remastering Barry, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, maybe we'll add a scorekeeper to Barry for one of these live streams.
Yeah, that would be a little second mode. There is for sure the space for it. It's like 150 lines or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And West likes the idea of the scorecard. I have a feeling we'll get some thumbs up for the auto scorekeeper too. So the next one that I wanted to talk about is also in our core set, and this has ever so slightly more complicated animations. I feel like guessing the easiest animation is a worthwhile guess. Feel free to put out your guesses for the next level.
I don't even remember what you're talking about. Oh yeah. The next level up.
I'll give you a hint. This game, the animation goes from the animation doesn't stay contained in a single blink, and you may already recognize what I just loaded up. We gave it kind of, I was inspired walking through Vegas. All the slot machines.
I will say this is always on my list of things I would remaster out. On my list of like, if we were making the core games again, no setup mode in this game. It's unnecessary. It's a waste of that graphic, you know?
It's not necessary.
Plus, it comes out of sync. That's another thing to talk about, is that this isn't synced. And we'll talk about syncing later. But if you just left this game in setup mode on your desk for a while, it's going to slowly drift apart.
Right.
You'll see that one on the bottom right is a little further along than everyone else. That one's a little further along than everyone else. It's going first.
Right. Yeah. So I understandably understand why this irks Dan. Yeah, you can see they're already starting to show the rainbow in different ways.
Yeah.
So this one's Bomb Brigade. And in Bomb Brigade, while the animations are largely contained to the blinks themselves, let's see how good I can be at blowing up.
You can cheat, you know, or do we not want to show people that?
I can cheat like this.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, good. Cheat that way because it won't show people the actual cheating.
That's
You got it. Put them back.
Okay. So I've blown up.
Yeah.
Now we get this bomb explosion, and the goal of that was that you want to still be able to see the level of each shield. So, you know, wanted to be something a little bit more explosive than just, oh, cool, the bomb's exploded. So when the bomb goes off, it animates into its neighbors.
And again, that's not synced. So any pattern you're, like, I was perceiving a sort of flow at the beginning, but that existed mostly in my mind. Like, that was, it's like when two cars pull up next to each other and their blinkers are synced, you know? These are, you can see it now. They're just they're going at their own pace.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up the code for Bomb Brigade just to have some.
I got to say, Bomb Brigade is the one game that I never typed a single line into. I just never, it was the game that was the farthest along when I joined the company. It didn't really need my help, you know?
Yeah.
And I've never touched it.
And this game stayed really true. So the three game designers, Jeff, Holly, and Colin, for this game, they made it at a 12-hour game jam. They designed it as a drinking game. There was something just very, I felt like, accessible and friendly about the you know, it's just like, it doesn't need to be crazy graphics. It's just, you know, like the social experience is already so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, Dan, this was your favorite game from the one in the beginning.
I will say it is, and I particularly like to play it with a slightly altered rule set. I like playing with multiple bombs. Like my ideal version of this game doesn't fit in the core set. I'd like to play 12 blinks, 3 bombs, you know, and make some sort of monstrosity on the table. And in fact, that's kind of why I don't like the setup mode, is because it makes that behavior slightly more difficult to engage in. But yeah, I really like Bomb Brigade. I love that animation, like the thing that we're seeing right now. I like that kind of dexterity. A timing game is really cool. So yeah, I really like Bomb Brigade.
So I'll show real quickly. So the animation here, it has a share explosion function where you just pass it a face that it's being shared on, and then you get this animation on those faces. And so share explosion, I'm sure, is being called after we check, or we're sending that. Let's see.
Yeah.
So if I'm a shield, let's see, share explosion false.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neighbor equals explosion, share explosion true. Yep.
Cool. And so, you know, it's a simple animation. It doesn't actually, I should show, if I put these shields out here, the explosion doesn't travel. It just goes to its local neighbors. Which allows you to play those three bomb games.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, the next one on my list. So we had animations just contained, then animations shared one level, or like to a neighboring blink.
So that's as simple as a blink looking around the world, and just like it says here, if my neighbor is an explosion, I should be exploding on that face. But there's no spreading of information. There's no, hey, I heard something over here, I should tell that person. It's just like, it's single focus.
I'm going to start to put out a lot of blinks for this one. Any guesses on what the next one, since we're going to talk about animations that spread from blink to blink continuously through the whole thing. Any guesses?
You want to unshare your screen?
Let's
there
see.
You go. I want to see that animation bigger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I always feel like when I load them this way, it looks like the United States.
Without Florida.
I said United. No, just...
Very exaggerated Maine, which I appreciate.
Let's see. I'm going to check the comments for guesses. All right, first guess right away, Jonas for the win. So Zenflow. Zenflow starts to, Dan, I feel like you should talk about Zenflow. And also before you start into that, I just want to say Jonathan West threw out a really cool idea, which was a community mod challenge for Barry. So I think we should get that started in the forum.
Yeah. So Zenflow is interesting. Zenflow has a strange development history. We were sending out the first developer kits, and we wanted to send something we wanted something pre-installed that used a lot of the base functions, something that someone could interact with the moment they got their blinks and go look at the code and understand the relationship between all the moving parts. So we knew we wanted it to spread information. We knew we wanted it to change color. We knew we wanted it to use multiple types of clicking: single click, double click, long press. And so what we ended up with was this this widget that we made that just spreads color. Sometimes the pathways get a little, but it's probably better if you put it down because you're getting little, like hinging in the, So the trick with Zenflow is that it fakes the speed of communication. Anyone who's been developing on blinks, or if you've played Wham, you know that when you click a blink and it spreads a message, it actually spreads quite quickly. We talked about this during our last stream. But Zenflow artificially limits the speed of communication so that it's very slow. So you can see the message spreading across the world. I think, what is it? We limit it like 400 milliseconds between blinks, which is much, much, much slower than the actual speed of communication.
Yep.
But Zenflow has a lot of really interesting visual elements to it. So what John's doing, that's the speed, but Zenflow goes way slower.
And I believe we're actually even slowing the speed of communication for sleep.
Oh, you might be. What about wake up?
Let's see.
Maybe.
I think tell. Load. I remember really.
Wham is the best way to watch the speed of communication because it's so vivid, and it moves so quickly. But yeah, Zenflow has a lot of complex animations that are there just for their own sake. They're not justified by game mechanics. So, for instance, you'll notice that on change, they don't just change color. We talked about bury, tap, new color, tap, new color. What you get here is they go to white, and then they turn their saturation up until they're the color they're supposed to be, right? And you get that white flash that makes the transition really seem really smooth, because it's just kind of like, and you could do it when John does double click and he gets random colors. It does a sort of sparkle, but after each little light turns white, it fades down to the color it's meant to be. And so it gives you this very smooth appearance that the other games we've looked at don't have. They just go from color to color. They want to be something new, they just turn into something new. And so this game was really one of our first efforts into what did you call it earlier? A cascading animation, something that spreads across a world. This is something you'll see in a lot of games. And it also was where we started to experiment with that flash of white down to the color. And we use that a lot. Again, to bring up Dynamo, that uses a flash of white as the heartbeat. Wham uses a flash of white to start the game. It also uses a flash of white when you hit a blink. It's just a really simple, easily understood way to have the user understand that their input has had an effect, but it can be really smoothly exited out of, as opposed to just like, when my finger's on it, it's red, and when I take it off, it's not. That's very brief. It has it's not juicy. It has no life to it. And so, yeah, this game wasn't even a game at the time. This experiment was a great first attempt, and we learned. I frequently steal code from ZenFlow. There's a bunch of things in ZenFlow that I just steal when I'm doing other stuff.
And I feel like I always envision it as like a camera flash or something like that. You know, one thing I've always hated about music and the way it's handled on almost all devices is that when you start and stop it, it starts and stops instantaneously, versus if you're in like a live venue, there's kind of like there's kind of a softness to the way it fades out. And I feel like lighting, when you enter a room, like my ideal way to enter a room is not like, oh, all harsh. It's like, oh, it's nice if there's kind of a ramp into it, or when you turn it off that it ramps out.
Right. I don't think people would like that. Could you imagine if you were trying to pause something you were watching and it like kind of like went slow-mo for a minute and you're like, no, I don't want to miss any of it.
So I think that's added to, I'm trying to think, maybe I think the new iOS, if you pause a video, I think it does like a and then, but it does it so quickly that content isn't lost. And I imagine when you start it, they probably
jump
back just a little bit.
That sounds, I don't know if I agree with that choice.
It's, I feel like, I don't think I'm imagining this.
No, that sounds like the kind of thing Apple would do. I don't know that it's the right thing to do, but it does sound like the kind of thing they would do.
So let's hop into our last animation style, which I think this is going to be a surprise as for which one I'm going to go for. And actually, we'll load up two for this example. I'm going to load up one game, and then, because I think we're going to talk about how it was used in another game. So go ahead and put your guesses for our most complex form.
Can't find the blink.
I need to, there we go.
Okay.
At this point, there's enough games that when I don't keep them sorted into their...
Yeah. It's funny because since quarantine began, I don't have blinks with labels. The 12 blinks I have are all blank on the back.
Oh, man.
Because those are the ones I happened to have on me the last day we were in the office. And so I don't have real labels. So anytime I want to play a game, I have to just install it. Yeah.
Not so bad with the new Dev Blink.
No, not so bad, but it's certainly not. I wouldn't want a customer to have that experience. That is like something I did by accident to myself. But I would prefer to be doing what Jon's doing, you know.
So I've got two games here. The first game that we're going to start with is Puzzle 101. And so Puzzle 101, I would say by design, Dan, you wanted this to feel very 8-bit.
Yeah, originally, not originally, I mean, it still kind of is. You can see there's some evidence of it. Not really. I wanted it to feel sort of chemical, like you were making like bonds between chemicals. And so it was very chunky. It was like, here's this, here's that. And that's why that like disco animation is very chunky. It's not smooth. It's not some like wave or sine wave. It's just flashing, which I actually ended up using again in group therapy to, I think, even greater effect.
Right.
But what Jon is the reason Jon loaded this up and what we're about to talk about is not something I added. This is something that I struggled with. The way I was displaying the game couldn't communicate winning. I couldn't communicate winning in a way that I felt worked. And Jon and I only had one bit left in the communication space, which is nothing. And Jon was like, "No, I got it." And then the next day pushed something to the repo that was this.
So I feel like this solution turned out to be pretty elegant and well.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
And like it gained some things that I wasn't sure it was going to help us with. So like when you win in Puzzle 101, the entire board pulses together. And so you know you've won because all of the things will go down and they'll be, cool, I'm solved. By an artifact of that is when something isn't solved, they reveal themselves. So
Yeah.
like I know that I guess I should set this down. I know that this one and this one need fixing because they're the only ones that are still lit up. The animation here requires all of the blinks to have a sense of timing that they share. And so we use, if you've seen the Firefly example or Josh's video of fireflies, we use a very similar mechanic here where the blinks all synchronize themselves. So it doesn't matter if we've got 6 or 100 of them,
Yeah, but with one bit, I want to point this out, that like I don't actually fully understand how it's doing it. Like, and we'll talk about the second game in a minute and why that's important that I don't understand it. But yeah, this is all with one bit. It's using all the other bits to communicate game mode and color. But this, all I gave Jon was, yeah, you can have the last bit in the binary sequence of communication. And this is syncing itself entirely and seamlessly with one bit, which I don't understand.
And I guess it's probably a topic for another video.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it is. It's the topic of a scientific paper that I believe made its way into like Science. What is it? Science and Nature, or
Nature's a magazine.
Nature, I think.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So it's used in Puzzle 101. And then the next game I loaded up is a game from the forthcoming community set, Pirates and Lasers.
You're going to have to do a bunch of damage for it to be visible.
Okay.
Like a lot. You're going to have to really wreck this ship.
Oh, right. So the first thing I'd like to show is when we take a laser, you'll recognize this kind of like Zenflow.
Right. And this takes it to a second level where, yes, the information spreads very quickly. So you'll see it goes very quickly. But what it sets off is a complex multi-layered animation. So it's a beam followed by a fade, followed by an explosion, followed by a fade up. And all these things are layered on top of each other in a way that is very complex and threatens the size of the game. But this was a pretty significant effort on my part to, like, this was quite complicated to get, because it has to fade up from nothing, but each blink has a different set of like what's underneath it is different. And then on top of that, what we're sort of here for specifically is, I don't know if it's going to be visible, but the waves beneath the ship.
So let's see.
It's a little visible. So the waves beneath the ship have a rise and a fall. And that rise and fall is synced in the exact same way as Puzzle 101. So much exact that I copy-pasted the code. I literally went into Puzzle 101, copied a function that was called like Firefly Sync, and put it at the bottom of Pirates and Lasers, and just changed the definition of the period. it's the same code. Exactly the same.
It's really visible in person. I realize it's
Yeah,
not.
it comes up and down.
The ball is really kind of just really, you can go to sleep just breathing face.
Yeah. And what's funny about that is that it further complicates the fading up, because I need to fade up while also respecting the current state of the wave. And so there's a wave fade, and then there is a world fade, and they are averaged to determine the current fade, and that happens every single frame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So when I do this shoot, and then they all fade back up.
Right. They don't fade up to full water brightness and then pop down to where they currently are in the wave. They fade up to where they currently are in the wave. So it takes the minimum value between current world fade and current wave fade, and it's a lot. It does a lot. But yeah, it's the being able to grab code from one game and use it in this. I mean, it saved me a lot of time. I don't know that I would have been able to re-engineer what Jon did. And I really, again, it was one of those things where I finished coding the architecture, and I was like, I have a bit left. Oh, I know what I could do with one bit. Like, I can make the sync with one bit. I never planned to have the waves sync. I was just like, it'll be blue. I won't think about it. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm only using 5 bits. Hey, I'll take Jon's Firefly code, and boom, I've got this whole new graphic that I have the budget for, like, sort of communication-wise. So that was really exciting.
I love that moment where you're just like, I could just grab this, plug it in, try it out.
That's how we got the sparkle and fracture. The sparkle and fracture is the sparkle from Zenflow. We just were like, well, we'll just take this and put it over there. Change a couple variable names, done.
Just felt like a balanced sparkle. Felt like the right.
It was cool. I really wanted it to be fully randomized, but you were like, no, Dan, if we just choose 6 values that are sort of disparate, nobody will really know that it's not random. And it's true. It looks random. It's not. It's always face 4, 1, 6, 2, 5. It's like, it's always the same faces in the same order. But you'd never know because all the blinks are reoriented.
They're all rotated. Yeah, it kind of has a... And if you go random with it, you end up with like these weird, like, the chance...
Human beings don't really like random things. They like distributed things.
Yeah.
And so this pattern is distributed, not random.
Yeah. There were many nights when my roommates would simply argue about the weighting of their dice. And they'd be like, okay, roll it 100 times and show me it was all 4s tonight. It was all 4.
Yeah. It's random. It's just not distributed. People want distributed, not random.
Okay. So I feel like we're at our time for our live stream, but I can't finish without announcing something that's really exciting. So I mentioned this on Tuesday. I guess there's a few things to announce. Number one, the Summer Games, amazing start to the sale. I believe there are less than 15 sets left. So for the last lucky 15 folks to get the Summer Games, they're so good. I'm excited. We've scheduled our packing party. The blinks that they're going to be programmed onto are set to arrive the first week of August. They're going to be shipping the second week of August. And the packaging is going to look pretty sweet too. You saw some holographic bags that I was looking at. Let's see. And then the most important thing for me to share here is that we're doing a giveaway. So this week is the first time we're trying this out, and we're looking forward to doing it in coming weeks. So we're giving away a core set of blinks this week. It starts today, and it's going till next Thursday. Next Thursday on our live stream, we'll announce the winner of this. And all you have to do to enter is to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and share our latest post. So if you go to Instagram, we're at Move38 INC. And if you go to Facebook, you can visit our page, I believe facebook.com/Move38. And follow us on both of those and go ahead and just share our latest post, and you'll be immediately entered to win a core set of blinks. So you can either, if you already have a set of blinks, you can gift them to somebody you want to play with. If you don't yet have a set of blinks, it's the awesome time to get them. And if you're feeling extra greedy, you can, of course, use those core set blinks to play all your games at larger scale.
If you already own them, you can take the stickers off, and now you've got 6 new Death Blinks.
Let's see. There's a couple other details. I'm just reading my details here. So let's see. You can sign up on the link in the description. So we'll have the description in the YouTube video. And then you can get additional entries by sharing the post and tagging your friends on social with the hashtag #IWantBlinks. And so those details will be in the description as well. And yeah, be sure to enter. This is, we're excited to be doing more competitions like this. And as per Jonathan West's suggestion for mods to the games on the forum, definitely keep your eyes on the forum. There's been lots of good activity. So I think we'll host some competitions in the forum as well. Thanks so much for joining our live stream. And if you have any questions as far as animations or the games moving forward, or topics that you'd like us to cover on the live stream, Dan and I always enjoy talking shop. So it's nice to have Dan on with me. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you Tuesday and Thursday next week. Be sure to tune into both next Thursday for the reveal. And we'll have also the summer interns back with some updates for next Thursday.
All right.
Oh, and if you haven't yet, subscribe down below and make sure to check that bell so you get a notification. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Later. All right.